Hey everyone, welcome to yet another video on understanding mindset. This is actually the last video about understanding mindset in the series inside of the Optimum Health Masterclass. This one is actually about getting the right mindset for success, which is going to last you a lifetime. But before we even really get into all the specifics on getting the right mindset for success, let's go back a little bit. Wow, we've really actually come a long ways. I mean, we started off talking about understanding how we make decisions, and that turned into the OODA loop, which was something developed by John Boyd, as we discussed. That's a decision-making process, again, where we get information in, we orient ourselves with that information, we decide what we're going to do, we're going to act upon it, and then that action turns into an observation, and hence the OODA loop. We then talked about how the OODA loop can get trapped into what we call a closed loop effect. And the closed loop effect is where we really kind of get ourselves into a rut, where we get the same information in, we process the information the same way, we pretty much make the same decisions, and we have the same outcomes. And it just goes around and around and around until we get into a rut that we can't get out of. And in terms of our health, this is when our health gets out of control and we have to turn to either professionals or to diet plans or pharmaceuticals to try to fix the issues that have been created by this closed loop effect. Now, we capped off that section with understanding that mindset plays an important role in whether or not we have an open loop or a closed loop effect. The mindset that we have is passive when we get to this kind of a situation. This passive mindset has been taught to us by propaganda and by many other sources of outside influence and outside power. We then spent several videos leading up to this one uncovering all the different places that we get our passive mindset delivered to us. And that again comes from propaganda, from TV, from billboards and advertisements, even scientific studies. It influences how we see ourselves and our body image. All of these things contribute to how it is that we have gotten a passive mindset. Now it's time to use the information that we've got from those videos to pivot away from a passive mindset and into an active one. The last several videos on understanding how we've gotten a passive mindset was meant to bring to our conscious thought all the different outside influences that have dictated how we make decisions about our health. And again, all that conscious thought now and that understanding of what we've been through up to this point is going to give us a platform to work from so that we can undo so much of what's been done and have a new active mindset for success. Before we get into the specifics of what a active mindset really is and how to become active in our mindset, I'd like to make an illustration. Let's assume for just a moment that this sheet of paper represents a passive mindset, the one that we've been taught to have since we were young children and then perpetuated all our lives up until this point. Today, in this very critical video, we are going to destroy that passive mindset. That's essentially like balling up just a little sheet of paper here into a little ball. Now that we've destroyed our passive mindset, for the rest of our lives, the propaganda machine that seeks to influence a passive mindset, which is very profitable as we've talked about, is going to work the rest of your life on trying to undo your active mindset. But no matter how much work the establishment does to try to make our mindsets passive again, it'll never be in the state that it was in before. Once a mind has been reshaped and once an active mindset has been established, it's difficult to go back to your old previous state. That's why I've mentioned so many times that the information that you're going to get from this Optimum Health Masterclass is permanently yours for life. And that's what I mean. You can't undo an old mindset again once you've gotten a new one. So this video again seeks to undo all the things that have made our mindsets passive, and now we're going to use this information and we're going to have a paradigm shift today to become active in our mindset. Now, to start off this section, let's review some of the things that characterize a passive mindset. The first thing is we act in fear. When we have a passive mindset, fear is a controlling factor in our lives. We fear that, for example, we might go on a diet plan and then gain the weight back. We fear that the pharmaceutical drugs won't work, or that we'll have to stay on pharmaceuticals for a long period of time. Fear is very disempowering. Next, the next characteristic is really about avoidance. So when we have a passive mindset, we have a tendency to avoid. We want to avoid the foods that we think are causing us health problems. We avoid situations that may contribute to gaining weight, for an example. So this mindset of avoidance is crippling in many senses of the word. For example, if you have an ailment of some kind, you might try to eliminate certain foods that you think are causing the problem. And eventually we get to a point where we just eliminate ourselves down to nothing. And that's just not sustainable. You can't not eat a balanced diet. The next characteristic of a passive mindset is that it's very difficult on our emotions. And the reason is because we might tell ourselves in the quiet confines of our mind that we're a failure, that we didn't stay on our diet plan, for example, or we gained the weight back, or something along those lines. And that destructive self-talk is, again, very disempowering. It's very difficult on our emotions, and it's really not fair that emotional hardship has been brought on to us by a passive mindset. Now, let's discuss the characteristics of an active mindset. And I'd like to start this by actually describing a situation that I think most of us have felt in our lives. Think back to a time in your life when you won something or you accomplished something that you knew deep down inside you could do it. Along the way, there were obstacles, there were things that you had to go around, and whenever those obstacles came into your path, you found a way through them, over them, around them, whatever it took. But at the end of the day, you accomplished your goal, or you won that prize, or whatever it was. And that feeling that you got of accomplishment and that you knew you could do it makes you feel like you're standing on top of a mountain, right? That is the essence of an active mindset. So when you look back and you think about how you felt at the top of that mountain, you didn't avoid your way to the top of the mountain, right? You didn't allow fear to stop you from driving to what you wanted to drive toward. That's because you had an active mindset. So now let's compare the two. So an active mindset, the first thing I want to talk about is fear, because we talked about fear in a passive mindset. In a passive mindset, fear is a crippling emotion. But in an active mindset, fear is kind of like a warning sign on the road to success. You can't avoid fear. It's always going to be there. But you can control fear and allow it to help guide you on your road to success rather than let it cripple you. The next thing we talked about was avoidance. In a passive mindset, we avoid. In an active mindset, you don't avoid, you seek. You're driving towards something. And whenever you're seeking and driving towards something, you don't need to avoid. That works itself out all by itself. So again, we're not avoiding, we're seeking, we're driving towards something. So in other words, like an example I gave before, you might try to avoid certain foods that you think are causing you a health problem. But if you have an active mindset, you're not avoiding those foods. You're seeking foods that allow you to become optimally healthy. What a difference. So now you're looking for things that make you healthy, and you're not worried about avoiding things that don't, okay? The next thing is that we talked about was the emotional aspect of this. So let me give you an example. So in a passive mindset, we talked about how it's emotionally difficult. So let me give you an example. If you went on a diet plan in a passive state of mind and you lost a pound, that could be devastating if you were expecting to lose 5 pounds, right? But if you have an active mindset and you're the one driving the ship, in other words, like I used before in a previous video, you're not just the captain of your ship, you're actually at the helm. Whenever you're making changes to, say, lose weight, for example, and you lose a pound, that's a victory. That's not a disappointment. That's feeding your OODA loop and saying that, hey, the changes that I made are working. So it's a very different emotional stance. You're in a positive feedback loop from an emotional state. So those are the characteristics of an active mindset and how it compares to a passive one. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, great, but how do I actually become active in my mindset? Let's start that conversation off with this. Throughout several of the videos that lead up to this one, I've mentioned in several of them a term that I call surface level goals. You've heard that several times up into the videos leading up to this point, surface level goals. I'd like to spend just a minute defining what that means. A surface level goal is an outcome that you want to achieve. And I'm just going to use this as an example because I think so many of us can relate to it. But let's just say that surface level goal is like losing weight or getting off the meds, right? That's the outcome that you hope to achieve. Now, surface level goals have been implanted into our mind through a passive mindset, through propaganda, through TV. And the reason is because a surface level goal is profitable and drives revenue, because somebody can sell you a diet plan to lose weight that's focusing on the outcome, right? Or pharmaceutical companies can sell us drugs to cover up symptoms that's focusing on the outcome. Okay. So in order to achieve an active mindset, and by the way, this works with anything, not just with our health and our wellness. In order to have an active mindset, a simple question that we should ask ourselves is simply this. What's the bigger picture that if I achieve it, the surface level goals will take care of themselves? What's bigger than the surface level goal of, say, losing weight or getting off the meds or undoing some sort of a physical ailment or a health problem? The answer is simply this: achieving optimum health. That's the bigger goal. If you achieve optimum health, all these other problems fade away. You can't be unhealthy and on meds and also in an optimum state of health at the same time. It's impossible. Optimum state of health drives the relinquishing of all of those ailments and all those things around the periphery that we've always previously focused exclusively on. So what I'm suggesting here is that look at the big picture and understand that the big picture, if you succeed in it, all the rest of that stuff falls away. You can't be overweight. You can't be on the meds. You can't have reversible diseases if you're already in a state of optimum health. Now, we might be asking ourselves at this point, well, if optimum health is the big goal and all the rest of my health problems will fall away if I achieve it, what drives optimum health? You've just switched from a passive mindset to an active one, because now we're asking ourselves, what drives optimum health? Now we're seeking new information that feeds our OODA loop from before with new information so that we can reorient ourselves, make new decisions, have new actions, new outcomes, and the loop opens. That's the power of this mindset. Again, focus on the big picture. In this case, it's optimum health. All the rest of it falls away, and start seeking the information that you need in order to achieve optimum health. You've just switched to an active mindset. It's so powerful, and it changes everything with your health or with anything else in your life that you want to apply this concept to. Now, we have been in a passive mindset for a very, very long time, many of us. And so to just shift over to an active mindset may take a little bit of time and a little bit of work, but stick with this course because the information that helps to lay a new foundation for optimum health is in the videos to come. And as we practice this, and as we learn more, and as we start to apply it to our lives, it becomes habit. And then the destroyed passive mindset that we previously had is gone. We have a new active mindset, and it lasts for an entire lifetime. So join me in the rest of the classes to come where we lay a brand new foundation for optimum health so that you can make the decisions necessary to drive optimum health, and all of those surface level goals in the periphery take care of themselves. Powerful video. It's a lot to think about. Maybe watch this a couple of times and really let this sink in so that we can use this as a foundation for everything that we do for the course from here on out, and again, for an entire lifetime. Thanks again. We'll see you at the next video.